Well, ladies and gentlemen, there is a battle that is going on right now regarding Hollow Knight Silksong, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the difficulty of the game, even though we've already talked about that. It doesn't have to do with the Chinese translation being terrible and being review bombed by Chinese players. We already talked about that. It has to do with the inner turmoil that is happening in the gaming industry. You know, that industry that pretends to be kumbayaing all the fucking time. It pretends to be best friends with each other and how we need to have each other's back and support each other and, you know, go after those gamer chuds and keep them down, blah, 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 whatever. Well, apparently, all of that goes out the window once one of them becomes so successful that the other becomes extremely envious. We see this happen all the time, literally all the time. And it's honestly sickening at this point. You see it all through YouTube. You see it all through gaming industry. You see it all through other industries. You see it in corporate life. You see it everywhere where you have people that will be so damn fake to you. They'll pretend to be on your side. They'll pretend to be friends with you. And then all of a sudden, when you hit a level of success that they can never achieve because of XYZ reason that they want to blame on you, suddenly the envy becomes so apparent that they want to attack you publicly. This is ridiculous and this has got to stop. But ultimately, now we are talking about the gaming industry eating itself, right? So I saw this post here from an account called Permaban, and it says, I feel like ranting about this. You can tell me if I'm wrong about this. Maybe it's just me, but I find it very stupid that so many indie developers, supposedly, and game journalists are attacking Hollow Knight Silksong's developers for announcing the game's release date 2 weeks in advance instead of longer and charging players $20 for it and not higher. Guys, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant myself. I'll finish reading this tweet first, but trust me, there's going to be a little bit of a rant after this. How Cherry is inconsiderate and horrible for giving other indie developers such short notice window and how their pricing supposedly hurts them. To me, all of this sounds like self-centered, cynical indie game dev politics nonsense. Who are you to decide what someone else does with their creation? If I were a game developer and I finished a game I made and I want to release it, I'll decide how long I want to inform my customer base in advance. It is my game. No other indie click dev gave me help in making it. Again, I'm reminded how much I dislike the indie game scene. Oh, by the way, this happens in AAA too, and I'm going to bring that up. They are functionally anything but independent. The same clicks, the same backstabbing, the same throwing each other under the bus. At its core, they are just like corporate game devs, but a different coat of paint. Now, before we go over the multiple tweets that this person has showcased here, I just want to go on a little bit of a rant really quick. So when it comes to shit like this, okay, they don't owe, like, these people don't owe these guys anything. Team Cherry owes other indie developers nothing. And you could say, well, you know, that's just being empathetic. That's just being nice. No, 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 no. Fuck you. You don't understand. Perhaps you have a false idea or a false understanding of what is actually going on here, right? You guys may go to the same game shows. You guys may pretend to be friends to each other. You might even follow each other on X. You might pretend to be best friends and how you're all supporting each other and you're lifting each other up, but you're only doing that as long as you guys are on the same level. The moment somebody from the indie scene breaks apart and becomes damn near mainstream success number worthy, like Silksong is, all of a sudden it's problematic. Do you think any of these developers would be giving an absolute fuck if Silksong came out and only did 10,000 concurrent players on Steam? Do you think they would even care? No, nobody would care. Nobody would give a fuck. Nobody would be talking about the pricing. Nobody would be talking about the release time, the shadow dropping. Nobody would talk about any of that because they wouldn't care. The only reason they care now is because Silksong is unbelievably successful and is seemingly taking all the money according to what these developers think. Now, guys, keep in mind, this doesn't just happen in the indie game scene as well. The AAA scene is experiencing this right now, where everybody is waiting with bated breath for Grand Theft Auto 6 to release. Once they found out what the release date was for Grand Theft Auto 6, and they only found out recently, suddenly everybody's scrambling, which, by the way, takes a lot longer to make a decision at a AAA level than it does at an indie level. But a lot of these studios are scrambling to alter their release dates. They're panicking. Everybody's saying, you know, it's unfair. If Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out the year that my game comes out, I'm not going to win Game of the Year. Blah, blah, blah. Cope and seethe. All this fucking nonsense. It doesn't matter, bro. At the end of the day, Team Cherry had a game. They made it, they wanted to release it, and they released it their way. And you can't sit here and pretend as if shadow dropping the smart way is not a good strategic move. We talked about this when the Oblivion Remastered came out, and I specifically said in my videos and in my live streams that shadow dropping for certain IPs is going to be the way in the future. It just is. They're going to give little or no notice for not only bad reviews to pop up, but also for their competition to be ready. You guys are competitors. You could sit here and pretend like you're kumbayaing and you're best friends, but at the end of the day, reality just smacked you right in the fucking face, and now you realize that you guys are competing against each other. You're all competing for the same dollar. You're all competing against other indie developers. Don't pretend like these people are your friends, and even if they are, you should still be able to compete with your friends. I don't get this mindset, and this mindset is only applicable in the gaming industry, it seems. Everybody wants to pretend like they're all friends, and you shouldn't be doing this. Why do you need any kind of warning over when I'm going to release my game? That doesn't matter to me. Like, you're not helping me. And then you have people that are coping and seething, and they're like, well, this is not fair to the marketing teams that other indie developers have. That's the problem for the marketing team to figure out. You pay your marketing team to figure out those problems. That's not my fucking problem. All this sounds like to me is massive levels of it should be me. Have you ever met somebody that is so envious of someone else's success, they never want to just get down to the nitty-gritty of the simple truth that it should be me, right? Like, it should be me. All of that should be me. This should be me. Why is it not me? And people don't want to ever admit that. They want to come up with all excuses like, well, if you release it at $20, people are going to think my game is too much money. Well, that's your fucking problem. If you release this game now and you shadow drop it, I'm not going to have time to prepare, and I'm going to end up having to push my game back that I wasn't planning to push back. You don't have to push it back. Release it and compete. And then you'll have people cope and see, then they'll say, well, Silksong, these developers have so much money for an indie team. They're rich. They could do it because Hollow Knight was a success. Hollow Knight wasn't a success at the beginning. Did you guys not remember when Hollow Knight released that on Steam when it first came out for the first couple of years? The concurrent player count barely passed 5,000. What are you talking about? The game wasn't a success. This is the kind of game that over 7-8 years dragged its feet, gained a massive following over multiple different years in sales. They were available on Steam until eventually it became so popular that people were talking about it behind the scenes. Word of mouth got around, and now it was highly anticipated for its sequel. Now, the funny thing is, this was not even supposed to be a sequel. It was supposed to be a DLC, and yet they decided to make it into a whole sequel, and people were memeing it saying it was never going to come out. And then they said, okay, it's not coming out. Guess what? It's out. They shadow dropped it. How do you think that's not going to be successful? Of course it's going to be successful. So this is why I mean, like, these strategies, these kind of things that happen in the gaming industry, they're going to happen. And if I understand, it makes your life harder. It makes your job harder. Nobody's saying it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you got to sit at the table with your other developers as an indie developer, and you got to say, okay, what are we going to do to solve this? What are we going to do to work around this? What are we going to do to try to make our life a little bit easier now that Silksong got shadow dropped? And guess what? If you come up with a new release date, if you come up with a new idea, what's going to happen 5 months from later when you shadow drop or you plan to release your game and then something else shadow drops? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Nothing, right? What are you going to do if you decide to release your game 6 months after Silksong, blaming Silksong for the reason why your game wouldn't sell, and then when the game comes out 6 months later and it doesn't sell, what are you going to do? Who are you going to blame? This is so much cope, it's insane. So let's look at some of these posts here. You got Joseph Moran says, I think Silksong's 2-week PR push has done some damage to other indie studios. I don't think Team Cherry thought about the impact this game would have on other indies and their marketing. I think that's a bummer, and I hope it isn't replicated. I hope it is. I hope it absolutely is replicated. That is not their prerogative. They don't have to care about other indie developers' marketing team. They don't pay those marketing teams. Those developers pay those marketing teams. They need to figure out what they're going to do. That's not their fucking problem. This guy, FaceTime, I can't be the only person who thinks it's kind of fucked up for Silksong to reveal its release date so late. Like, man, you're indie developers. You should understand the struggle that studios go through. Again, that's not their prerogative. That is your situation to go through. Did you guys care about Hollow Knight? Did you guys realize that Hollow Knight released in 2017? Do you know the amount of banger video games that released in 2017 that Hollow Knight had to release and compete against? Do you think they were sitting there crying on social media about nobody giving their game a chance? No, they released the fucking game, and little by little, through word of mouth, they were able to garner a following. You guys are sitting here blaming another game, another indie game, for shadow dropping itself when you're not looking at the fact that they also had to deal with the same thing that you're supposedly dealing with, but you're the only one bitching about it. Why is that? Then you say, Stripe says, of course, on Blue Sky, like, of course. By the way, Team Cherry absolutely had the responsibility of giving a heads up. No, they did not. They did not have the responsibility to give anybody a heads up about the release of Silksong and accommodating other indie devs in regards to it. No, they did not. They don't work with these people. I don't gotta accommodate a fucking person, bro. Are you kidding me? What other business, what other company has to accommodate their competition? Like, do you even hear yourself right now? Art isn't made in a vacuum, and as indie devs, they absolutely should know how hard it is for other indie devs to be visible. Guys, this is the problem. These people view it as art, and while I agree it is an artistic expression, at the end of the day, you are making one thing and one thing only, and that's a product. And you have competition to that product. Sure, you're making art, but that art is a product, and you have competitors, and you're out here telling these people, oh, you got to give your competitors a warning. Why? Why do you have to give your competitors a warning? Get the fuck out of here with that. That mindset is ridiculous. This is such a ridiculous, soft mindset that is only in the gaming industry or in the entertainment industry. Honestly, I can't even say that because Hollywood, yeah, they don't give a fuck. They're going to drop their movie when they drop their movie. So yeah, no, this is a gaming industry problem. These people absolutely are soft as hell. Is Hollow Knight Silksong cheap's price a problem for other indie games? Developers and publishers weigh upon its impact. Listen, the only impact it has is that it released a good game, right? A highly sought after game, a sequel that nobody thought was coming. It released the game, shadow dropped it at a price that was unbelievable, right? $20 is amazing for this game, to the point where pirates are like, you know what? We're not going to pirate this game. Let's buy it for $20. This is ridiculous. Let's stop this entire thought process that, oh, you need to give your competition warning. Fuck no, you don't. You sound retarded. You genuinely do. So again, people are just destroying them in the comments. Obviously, guys, look, DG mods, develop whatever you want, market however you want, release whenever you want. I agree with that. I mean, that's basically sums up all this nonsense. So you guys can let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about this entire nonsense that's happening right now in the gaming industry, where people are basically eating each other? Indie developers are eating each other alive. They're all blaming each other. They're blaming Team Cherry. Team Cherry is not even saying anything. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you enjoyed it, consider hitting that like and subscribe. And I will see you guys on the next one.